Hello and welcome to Brick Speak. I am Brigadier Rakesh Bhatia, your host for this episode. Gentlemen, you may be wondering at times as to why do we have to study military history. Little do we realize that studying history or ancient texts doesn't mean memorizing facts. We study them to understand how power works, how leaders decide, and how wars are won or lost. Your party promotion exam expects you to prepare for two themes: the Indo-Pakistan War of 1965, a modern campaign fought on our western front. The other is Arthashastra of Kautilya, written more than 2000 years ago. At first, they may look apart. One belongs to tanks and jets, the other to kings and spies. But both ask the same questions. What is the duty of a leader? How should covert operations be used? How do we choose allies and enemies? And how should war be prepared and fought? The Arthashastra gives us principles. The 1965 war shows those principles tested in practice. And today's world of geopolitics, geoeconomics, and geosecurity shows those lessons are still alive. If you can make these connections, you will not only score higher in your exam, but also sharpen your thinking as future leaders. This is why we study the Arthashastra and the 1965 war together. The Arthashastra lays out timeless principles of leadership, intelligence, diplomacy, and war. The 1965 campaign is a modern case study of how those principles play out in practice. When you show the examiner that you can connect the two, you are no longer just listing facts. You are demonstrating depth, perspective, and strategic understanding. So, from the very beginning, think in this frame: ancient principle plus modern practice. That is the formula for strong answers. Kautilya's Arthashastra has many sections, but your syllabus focuses on 4 chapters, also referred to as books in some of the literature. Chapter 3: The King. Here Kautilya describes leadership. The ruler must be disciplined, well educated, and dedicated to the people's welfare. His most famous line is, "In the happiness of the subjects lies the king's happiness." For us today, this is the leadership as service. The same principle applies to a commander in uniform. Chapter 9: Covert Operations. Kautilya believed that secret means could be as decisive as open battle. He describes spies, agents, disinformation, bribery, and sabotage to weaken the enemy before fighting. In modern terms, this is grey zone warfare, cyber operations, propaganda. Chapter 10 deals with foreign policy. This is where we get the Mandala theory. Every neighbor is a potential enemy. The neighbor's neighbor a potential friend. He also gives 6 possible policies: peace, war, neutrality, preparation, alliance, and double policy. This is the earliest expression of geopolitics. Chapter 11 deals with defense and war. Kautilya explains the type of troops, formations, morale, supply, and sieges. He repeatedly warns that war is costly. Avoid if possible, but if you must fight, do it decisively. These 4 chapters, or books as they were called, form a complete arc: leadership, covert operations, diplomacy, and war. They are the backbone of your syllabus. Let's talk a bit about 1965 war. Pakistan began with Operation Gibraltar, infiltration into Kashmir to trigger revolt. It failed because the people did not support it. Next came Operation Grand Slam, an armored strike at Akhnur. Early gains were lost due to hesitation and command changes. India's response was bold. We opened the international front towards Lahore and Sialkot, forcing Pakistan to defend its own soil. Three case studies are worth remembering. Asal Uttar. Pakistan's pattern tanks advanced near Khemkaran. Indian troops lured them into waterlogged fields. In 3 days, nearly 100 Pattons were destroyed. A turning point, terrain and discipline defeated superior equipment. Sialkot, one of the largest tank battles since World War II. Pakistan tried to break through. India absorbed the attack and held. It ended in stalemate, but India denied the breakthrough. Haji Pir. Indian troops captured the Haji Pir Pass, closing infiltration routes, a daring operation that gave India a tactical edge. The war ended with Tashkent Agreement. Both sides claimed victory, but it was a stalemate. Still, Pakistan's grand plan collapsed and India gained confidence while learning lessons about preparation and leadership. We will talk about the war in detail. We will also give you small little historical facts which led to the situation Pakistan found itself in. We will also talk about Pakistan sitting in US lap by signing CENTO and CETO treaties. Role of China in instigating Pakistan will also be discussed. At some stage, a precursor to the 1965 war, which was fought in Cham, will also be discussed for you to have a complete understanding of what happened before 1965 and why Pakistan felt overconfident of attacking India and the losses which Pakistan suffered due to bad planning and being overambitious much more than what its capabilities were. Now, the most important part why I recollected 1965 war in today's episode was to connect it to Kautilya. Let's talk about the four chapters that I had discussed. In chapter 9, Covert Operations, Operation Gibraltar was meant to be covert action, but it failed exactly as Kautilya warned because covert operations need local support to succeed. In chapter 10, Kautilya discusses foreign policy. Pakistan misread its Mandala. I will explain this term as we progress in future. Pakistan expected US and Chinese help, but both held back. India, though non-aligned, benefited from Soviet mediation. Alliances must be calculated with realism, not wishful thinking. About war. Both sides entered without full preparation. The war dragged, costly but indecisive. This is exactly Kautilya's warning. War drains the treasury. Fight only when ready. The king. In chapter 3, Kautilya discusses leadership. In case of India, leadership was decisive. Lieutenant General Harbakh Singh's firmness in Western theatre stabilized India's defense. Where leadership faltered, opportunities slipped. We'll carry out a detailed study of operations in Akhnur, where at the last moment Pakistan changed its commander. So you see, Kautilya's lessons were alive on the battlefields of 1965. Lessons given by Kautilya are not just history, they are alive in today's geopolitics. Pakistan's use of proxies is modern covert operations. Chapter 9 alive again. China Pakistan partnership is our current Mandala. Chapter 10 in action. India balances this with Quad and other partnerships. Drones, cyber warfare, propaganda are today's versions of covert action. Leadership remains timeless in Galwan and in Operation Sindoor. Clarity and firmness have been decisive, just as Kautilya wrote in chapter 3. This is why the Arthashastra is not an old book on a shelf. It is still relevant in today's geoeconomics, geopolitics, and geosecurity. Let me give you few smart tips. Like I said, focus only on chapters 3, 9, 10, and 11. Memorize the 1965 sequence: Gibraltar, Grand Slam, Indian counteroffensive, Asal Uttar, Sialkot, Haji Pir, and Tashkent. Always link ancient principles with modern event. That is what earns top marks. Use at least one quote. The easiest and most powerful is, "In the happiness of his subjects lies the king's happiness." As we progress, we'll give you many more. Try and memorize them. Keep your answers structured. Start with introduction, give the concept, case study if you know, and correlation, and in the end, conclude. I will now give you possible answers to the questions I just mentioned. Discuss the relevance of Kautilya's concept of covert operation in the context of the 1965 Indo-Pak War. Kautilya in Arthashastra describes covert operations as a tool to weaken the enemy before war, but always insists on groundwork and popular support. Pakistan's Operation Gibraltar in 1965 mirrored his method in intent, but collapsed precisely because Kautilya's preconditions were ignored. What is Kautilya's Mandala theory of foreign policy? The model opening line could be: Kautilya's Mandala theory, the first Indian articulation of geopolitics, sees every neighbor as a potential enemy and the neighbor's neighbor as a friend. In 1965, Pakistan misread its Mandala by overestimating the US and Chinese support, while India benefited from Soviet mediation, proving the timelessness of Kautilya's calculations. The model opening line for the question on role of leadership and preparation in war could be: Kautilya stresses that the king's discipline is the state's discipline and warns that war must be prepared for fully before being waged. The Indo-Pak War of 1965 validated this lesson. Harbakh Singh's firm leadership stabilized the Western Front, while lack of preparation on both sides led to a costly stalemate. Let us end with a bigger picture. The Arthashastra proves that India's civilizational wisdom in statecraft is deep and enduring. The 1965 war shows those lessons alive in modern campaigns. And today's challenges prove they are still relevant. So study with pride. Don't just aim to pass. Aim to think like leaders who can connect past, present, and the future. That is how you stand out in the exam and in your career. Gentlemen, history never repeats exactly, but it rhymes. The Arthashastra, the 1965 war, and today's events all rhyme with the same truth. Leadership, clarity, and preparation decide outcomes. You are not just examinees, you are commanding officers in the making. You inherit the wisdom of Kautilya, the courage of 1965, and the responsibility of tomorrow. Carry these lessons with you into your studies, into your exam, and one day into your command. Thank you. With this, I come to the end of today's episode. You are requested to please like, share, and comment. Thank you very much. Keep working hard. Jai Hind.